You have found the Jordy Culotta Show right here on YouTube. We go live Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. on the campus of Click Here Digital in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where we serve up premium LSU content. Hard-hitting guests, opinions that you can find Monday through Friday. If you want that, subscribe right here on the link that you see below. Coach Kelly, we're official.
Finally,
I'm
get a
telling
chance to meet you. Thought I had to get a private audience with the Pope. There's Jordy.
Monday through Friday from 7 to 9. Yeah, you see the notification, we about to go live. We got all your favorite guests, we got them in line. It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Tearing up, answering the question, and I thought, my God, if she gets offered this job, she's going to take it.
It's just a crazy, fun time at LSU right now. Isn't this what everybody loves?
From the boot to the east to the west coast, no matter where we at, we open up the phone lines, come and join the show. Make sure you tell your friends about Jordy Culotta Show, yeah.
Let's go! Let's go!
All right.
Big start. Big day.
Nice start.
It's the Jordy Culotta Show, come have a good time.
Thank you for the time. All right, so Brian Kelly was speaking to the press yesterday. Obviously, these are the last times that we hear from Kelly during game week. He meets with the press post-practice on Thursdays, and then he heads over to TJ Ribbs for his weekly radio show and stops in with Chris Blair. Here's some of the things that he had to say yesterday. Stewie, we can just run them down here from his opening statement down. Kelly yesterday inside of LSU football operations talking about the week of preparation going into Grambling on Saturday.
Man, read social media about you, how bad everything is, how the world's about to end.
Let's follow the show.
All right. Somebody's got to have a good question.
Ooh, pressure.
This week.
We'll see what I.
Was that it?
Oh, that was just that was his opening statement.
Yeah, but I mean, was that the cut?
That was
was that you or Lloyd?
That was me.
All right.
That's how he started the press
Yeah,
conference.
no, I saw it.
So I just kind of.
Who's this? This is Wilson Alexander.
Wilson,
yeah,
first
he stepped
question.
up. That was a pressure kind of like, let's see.
Yeah.
All right, good job, Wilson. Let's see. He asked him about Lance Hurd, right off the top. Let's see what he had to say about the freshman tackle.
Yeah, I think the plan is to get him in, certainly, with the first unit. And see how that mix goes as well. And look, I think part of it was, to take an offensive tackle going against Florida State's defensive ends didn't seem to be the smartest thing to do in week one. But, I think in week two, I think this is a good opportunity to get him in and give him an opportunity to play a little bit. So excited about getting a chance to see him play.
Other players, and I expect Lance Hurd to be in the starting lineup by the time LSU gets the SEC play. We didn't talk a lot about the Miles Frazier news this week, but obviously there was a Florida State defensive lineman who made a comment that LSU's offensive line during the game told them that, you guys are good. And, the Florida State defender said, once once they heard that, they were ready to eat. And, look, I'm not here to talk about that stuff, but I think that the days are numbered on this starting lineup for the offensive line. I think that Lance Hurd is one of the best five. I think he is one that LSU looks and says that's their best group. And I think that this is the weekend where we start to see that push of him cracking that lineup. And by the time Mississippi State is on the field versus LSU, I expect him to be out there in the starting group. Here's some more players that Brian Kelly was speaking about that we could see this weekend, some wide receivers that he expects to play.
Guys, I think Chris has deserved the opportunity to play some more regardless. If we're playing, and Grambling is going to present a great challenge for us. I think Chris, and again, regardless of the competition, regardless of who we were playing, Chris is he's put himself in a position in the way he's practiced to get more reps. So Chris is going to be in the mix and getting out there. He's shown enough to me in the way he's handled himself that he deserves to get in there. Sheldon's still learning. It's still a process with him, and he's getting there. And look, there's a lot of freshmen that travel for us and we took them on this the trip because we wanted them to get that experience. And a lot of these guys will get there, but they're still cooking. They're still in the oven. And I think we'd be a little early to take them out, but they're going to start popping and start playing this year for us, and he's certainly one of them.
That's good to hear on Chris Hilton, really. I think that of the group, I think Chris Hilton has this skill set. It's kind of like when you describe Trey Bradford in the running back room. Not that they're all the same guys, but there are a lot of skill sets that are very similar in the room as the collection of talent is sitting there. And there's one outlier, right? And to me, it's it's Bradford in the running back room, and I think it's a combination of Aaron Anderson and Chris Hilton in the wide receiver room, right? I think when you look at those two guys at wide receivers, they can do a little bit. They can do something different. Chris Hilton can stretch the field. His speed is world class. He's a game-breaking type talent that has always been that. I mean, if you have followed Chris Hilton's career, and we've done that, I have, down here in South Louisiana, just because I'm a big fan of the Zachary Broncos football program. David Brewerton has always been great to me as a young media member, and even like a young kid going around his Catholic High teams. He was always great to you always knew that Brew was going to be a great coach. I mean, even when he was a player, you could tell that he was going to be a great coach. And just following him and really kind of becoming closer to him when he was on that Redemptor staff and kind of building a friendship through Livonia and now at Zachary, I've always followed him and been a fan of his program. And, his first state championship was won by Chris Hilton taking a 70-yard screen route at the end of the game to win it versus West Monroe. I mean, that was his first state title. Chris Hilton was a sophomore making that play on that field. I mean, think about that. To be a 10th grader on the field of the 5A state championship game versus West Monroe in the Dome and take home, I don't know if that was Zachary's first state championship ever, but it was the first under Brewerton and the first in a long time, if it wasn't the first ever. And, Hilton has always been that dude. He's always been a guy that's been a big-time playmaker. Was never afraid of the moment. And I know that he went through some things kind of early on where he had some drops in practice and, some things where the coaches loved what he could do, but not necessarily trusted him to put him out there in a game situation. It's time now, right? I mean, it's time. He's paid his dues. He's done the time. He knows the offense. You hear what Brian Kelly has to say about him. And I would once per game, at least minimum one time per game. If you remember this, they used to do this with Benny Brazil. Benny Brazil was a track / football guy. He's still on the staff with the track program. And once per game with Jamarcus, they would send Benny Brazil deep. And if nothing else, a lot of times they would connect with it. I remember the first time that LSU played Urban Meyer in Florida inside Tiger Stadium. Urban Meyer's first year at LSU, at Florida, his first time at LSU. Benny Brazil caught a 70-yard bomb on the opening drive of the game that, was kind of it puts this pressure on the defense of now you have to defend this all day. Oddly enough, I think Benny Brazil was number 17. Same number as Chris Hilton. But once and after you hit it one time, then you kind of go back to it. But it put this pressure on the defense where you had to always respect it. And even when he was out there, you always were thinking about it. It was always in your head. It was something that you had to defend against. So I just think that Chris Hilton's got to play every game. I mean, I would put him out there. I think that there's got to be 12, 15, 18 plays a game where Chris Hilton can be out there. I mean, I think he's that good. He's got a skill set. He does something that not necessarily anybody else can do. And there can't be that many DBs that can run step for step with him. I mean, like, if he decides to put his head down and sprint, I just think that's a huge problem for defenses. All right, more from Kelly here. Here he is talking about the injury report heading into Saturday.
Yeah, Goodwin is upgraded to probable, and I think Anderson as well. Both of those guys are probable.
More from Kelly, and that's good to hear about Armani Goodwin. Hopefully he can crack the field and get back into it, so he can start to really get back into football shape. Brian Kelly was asked about some of the hits that Jaden Daniels took on Saturday and what the message has been this week to his quarterback.
I think he needs to be a little bit more, smarter in the things that he does. We don't want him to be anybody else but Jaden. But I think he can be a little bit more prudent in some of the decisions he makes. But he's always run that way. So we're not going to change him too much. But trying to jump over the pile, I think we can tamp that down a little bit.
If you remember last year, that was a lot of the concern about Jaden Daniels, is that he ran in between the numbers so much. I mean, in the SEC, the game is violent in between the numbers. I mean, obviously, if you want to play quarterback, you want to, maybe look for the sideline, try to get down, try to, limit as many hits as possible in between the hash marks and the numbers on an SEC football field. It's as close to the NFL comparison as you can find. So from Daniel's standpoint, jumping around in the middle of the field, that's just not going to work. I mean, I thought he was almost a little lucky last year to make it to week 12 before he was injured in the style and the play and the way that he plays. But like Brian Kelly said, and I agree, you don't want to change somebody. You don't want to overwhelmingly change someone, but if you're going to count on somebody to touch the ball every single play and be your quarterback, you got to make smart decisions in the way that you protect your body, right? I mean, it's just, you got to be able to do that. All right, here's an interesting name, and I was glad to hear that Brian Kelly was speaking on Braden Swinson, because I thought Swinson last week was one of the high marks, really. I thought that he was a bright spot last week, and if I had any complaint on Swinson, it would be that he just didn't play enough. I thought that they got away from him way too much in the production that he was putting out. So here is Kelly talking about the Oregon transfer, Braden Swinson, and what to expect from him coming up.
I think it was what we were hoping for. He brought a lot of energy. I really liked his. There wasn't across the board, and this has been written about and talked about. I wasn't pleased with the energy, and that falls on me. But he brought a lot of energy. It's nice to see that, and certainly his ability to rush the passer. So we hope to continue to build on that.
That was really kind of what I saw too during the game. That was one of the disappointing parts of kind of the recognition in game of Braden Swinson, was he was one of the only guys that was giving you some pop, some juice, some energy, where you thought, man, you got to feed off that stuff. You can't take that thing away. You can't take it out of the game. And I thought that Swinson really, was, like I said, I thought he was a bright spot. I thought he was somebody that you looked at and thought, man, he's really giving you everything he's got, and he's making plays. I mean, he was a playmaker out there for LSU. Remember to hit that like button for us if you don't mind. We're trying to get 100 likes an hour, and we're not trending well right now. So help us out if you're inside of the chat, if you're watching right now, even if you're going back and you're watching and it's not live. And you can still give us a like if you don't mind. We appreciate that very much. If you're not subscribed, make sure and give us a subscription. You can hit the bell and you'll know when we go live. And remember, daily, we're brought to you by our friends over at Go Roof, GEAUX Roof.com. GEAUX Roof.com is where you can find them online. Go Roof, a beautiful roof every single time. You can get that 2-year free workmanship guarantee when you get in touch with Go Roof. The phone number is easy, 225-927-8300. 225-927-8300 and online at GEAUXroof.com. Residential roofing, commercial roofing repairs, they do it all over at Go Roof. You get a free quote, free and quick roof inspection. They got over 15 years of experience, and they have been firmly established down here in Louisiana, providing competitive prices and providing great workmanship, great professionalism. And it's a great experience. Look, man, yesterday down here in South Louisiana, out of nowhere.
The weather, right?
What was that? I mean,
I
like,
don't know. It was like I thought it was supposed to be like a tornado. Like
so, like at points around like there's like debris all over the place. I'm like, what is going on with all of this wind? I mean, it was like whipping. I mean, treetops kind of bending. So if you've got damage, if you've got down tree limbs, if you had anything hit the roof, get in touch with our friends over at Go Roof today. Crazy weather down here over the last couple of weeks, man. If you've got roof damage, hail, wind, get in touch with Go Roof. GEAUXroof.com, 225-927-8300. All right, back to Brian Kelly. Here he is talking about Logan Diggs. Diggs is a guy that's been a little curious, right? I mean, it's... At times, I heard he was going to be the starting running back for LSU. He was going to be the guy. Then at times, you go out to practice, and like he'll be in the middle of a drill. I know Stewie has seen this. I've seen it as well, where like he'll just kind of be popping through the drill, and he'll just unbuckle his chin strap, and he'll just start walking back into the locker room. I mean, I saw it one time where the assistant to Frank Wilson, you usually got like two coaches, per group. And Frank's kind of assistant to him, was kind of like, yo, where you going? And I mean, he's like pointed at his hamstring, and he just kind of walked inside. And if you listen to the sound bites that Brian Kelly speaks on Logan Diggs, it sounds like they just need him to commit. Like they like what they see, but then he'll be out of practice. And he won't be involved. And, I mean, look, there's a standard that you got to practice to play. And I think there's just been some, kind of waiting on Logan Diggs to say, all right, I'm in. I'm ready to commit to this and be at practice every day and fight through some of the things that may be setting him back. Here is Kelly talking about the transfer out of Notre Dame and the New Orleans native.
See from him in those reps?
Logan Diggs has been getting quite a bit of work. He feels healthy, and I think a lot of the hesitation was that he wasn't full speed, and to put him in a game against a top 5 opponent or top 10 opponent in Florida State, Frank just didn't feel comfortable in doing so. And I think the other part of the question was, yeah. Look, I mean, he's had a great week of practice, but I think, the reality of the situation is, average number of plays defended are in the mid-60s. It'd be great if we can get him in the, 30-play range in his first game and up that to, 40, 45 to where he can play a full game and maybe his second, third game. He'll tell you otherwise. He'll tell you that he can play every play, but fatigue definitely set.
So it's hard to read between the lines on that with Diggs, right? Like, I mean, it seems like like I said, at times it seems like he has been who they want to be the feature back, and then you kind of hear like, well, it doesn't feel like he's comfortable going out there, and it's like, well, is he really hurt, or is it just things that are kind of holding him back? I don't know. Maybe we see him this weekend. I'm just trying to kind of read between the lines there on what Kelly's talking about. Here's Kelly talking about the difference in scheduling and what his opinion is on what he would like to see.
My philosophy has been that I want to play as many SEC schools as we can play within the conference setup that everybody else plays, right? Obviously, I don't want to play more SEC schools if somebody else is not playing them. So, if I had a choice between 8 and 9, I wanted to play 9. And then, your schedule should reflect the balance necessary to play a 9-game SEC schedule. You don't want to go out then play, the rest of the schedule, murderer's row. So you then look to, can you play teams in the state of Louisiana? I think that should be your vision, right? Are there schools that you can play? And of course, the last 2 years, 2 HBCU schools makes awesome sense in terms of being able to do that with Southern and Grambling. So continue to look at that as an option. And I know Verge Osbury does the scheduling for us, and I think he looks in that respect as well.
Translation? I don't think you're going to see many of these games down the road in the future as the new schedule will be formatted. And we'll know more about the new schedule after next season when Texas and Oklahoma are added to the league. And then what's the criteria for the 12-team playoff? I think there'll be a much more stable conversation and stable outcome. A lot of it right now from the scheduling standpoint is just kind of up in the air when you ask people around it. The difference between Emory Jones and Lance Hurd, this is a good question because I think in comparison's sake, when you think about Lance Hurd, you do look at Emory Jones and just the skill set. Will Campbell is just kind of a left tackle, right? And I think maybe in comparison's sake, Lance Hurd's probably more comparable to Campbell than he is to Jones. Jones is the most versatile offensive lineman on and in the group. He's the guy that can play multiple positions, either here in college or even at the next level in the NFL. I think Brian Kelly describes a little bit about that in the soundbite. But when you look at Campbell, when you look at Hurd, and this is something that I think LSU has really not had. Maybe since a guy like Lyle Collins. I mean, even Ethan Posick came in as the number one, left tackle in the country, and he ultimately ended up playing center at LSU. I mean, just out of desperation. This was the first time, and I think Hurd and Campbell, that you're able to recruit a true tackle and put him at tackle. Even Lyle Collins cut his teeth at guard. I mean, on that 2011 team or the 2012 team, Collins was the guard on that squad. Then he ended up becoming a 3-year starter at left tackle. But, it took him a bit to get outside. Hurd and Campbell are true island players on the offensive line. I mean, you can put them by themselves against freaky defensive ends and, ask them to hold their own for 3 hours. Jones can do that too, but you can also put him down inside and he can pull, get out in front, athletic, and, just big, strong, and fast. Here is Kelly talking about the difference between Lance Hurd and Emory Jones.
They're a little bit different in the sense that, Emory is a much more suited to probably play multiple positions when he moves on. A guy that could play center, guard. He could probably get you out of trouble playing tackle at the next level. Lance is a tackle with his length. So they're a little bit different, but I would say that they're very similar in terms of their demeanor, the way they approach things on a day-to-day basis. They're great workers. They're great in the classroom. They take their work very seriously. And so I think that there's a lot of traits that are similar that allow freshmen to compete for starting positions. And he's got that kind of makeup. But I think in terms of the physical traits that they bring, there is a little bit of a difference between the two.
Looking forward to seeing what Lance Hurd looks like on this offensive line and what it does to the group. I think, you add a guy like Hurd into the mix, and, I mean, man, that whole unit now becomes a tick more athletic, more, strong, physical. It's just I'm looking forward to seeing what this group looks like with Hurd a part of it, and even kicking Emory Jones down, what that allows you to do. From maybe some stuff in the run game, some things that you can do on the outside by pulling him and getting him out in front, maybe some things in the screen game.
Getting him to the second level is essential.
Oh. I
Emory
mean,
Jones on the second level with a linebacker or a safety is church. Like, he might take him back to Catholic High.
well, I mean, if you think of one of the ultimate highlights of Emory Jones, ones that'll flash on draft day has to be one a year ago this weekend when he just put the Southern linebacker or defensive lineman on. Remember,
Skates.
he drove him 14, 15 yards down the field and put him into the end zone, to the sideline.
My introduction to Emory Jones was pretty good. I covered Woodlawn, and they played Catholic for the district championship, and he took a Woodlawn defender from the 20-yard line to the fence. You know, the fence at Memorial Stadium.
Golly.
He took him from the 20 to the fence. They had to call a flag, but I mean, that's what you want from your offensive lineman.
Oh, he was a mauler in high school. I mean, he would break kids' will. I saw him play Jesuit in a state championship game at Ullman Stadium, and Jesuit they were good that night. I mean, like, they were big, strong, and physical. This poor defensive end that just lined up over Emory Jones for 2.5, 3 hours. I mean, there was just nothing he could do about it. It was a torture chamber. I mean, like, it was like there's nowhere else to go, man. For the next 3 hours, you got to stand over this guy and just
Take it.
try and fight him. I mean, and he was just doing that type of stuff, driving him 15, 10 yards down the field and then just landing on him. You know, it was
Body blows.
It was brutal. It was brutal. And now to see him potentially at the guard spot with a guy like Hurd next to him, I think, you think about what happened to that right side of the offensive line last week. I mean, they were moved a little bit. That's probably one of the top units that they faced all season in Florida State. But still, I mean, you would have liked to have seen a little bit better of a showing. Here is more from Kelly here, heading into week 2. After week 1, obviously, not the outcome that you were looking for. But here's Kelly talking about what the week of preparation has been like.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've reached a level of preparation that I'm much more comfortable with this week. The intensity level is what I was looking for, and we seem to have reached the level that I'm much more comfortable with. I've got to take full responsibility for not getting it there, and I feel good about where we are and where we need to continue to go. Because then you've got to go and take that from your preparation to performance. And so the next challenge will be finishing up here Friday. Our walkthrough on Saturday, and then playing Saturday night and performing with an intensity and an emotional control that gives you that competitive edge that we lacked. And that's what we're looking for from this team. They know. I don't know what our guy said the other day. I hadn't talked to Mike about it, but I'm sure they probably talked in a similar vein because they've heard the same message. We've got to play with a competitive edge that we lacked, and I didn't do a good enough job of creating that. I've seen it this week from our guys.
More from Brian Kelly, and this is an interesting soundbite here coming up. This is about Jaden Daniels throwing the ball down the field, and I think this is something that we were all looking for going into the season. You didn't see it as much as you would have liked to in week 1. Kelly gives the stats and the numbers on explosive plays, and it's got to be a lot more than this. But here is Brian Kelly speaking about expectations of big plays for LSU.
I think when we look at big plays, I think we had about 11 big plays in the passing game, and, they're 20 yards plus. That's going to get it done for you. So, we had a drop there. Certainly I'm sure there's some plays that we would have liked to see him, connect on. I think at the end of the day, we're calling the plays necessary for us to be explosive offensively. We have to execute at a higher level, both at quarterback, wide receiver, and from a protection standpoint.
I think Kelly, translation there is you got to let it go. I mean, when he's saying that LSU's calling the plays to have explosive plays, you just have to execute. I think you're saying everything from blocking and catching and throwing, but at some point you have to take the shots as well. This is the last bite here, Stewie. This is Kelly speaking about playing freshman DB Javion Taviano who had a really good spring and had a solid summer from all accounts. And here he is talking about the freshman's input.
We like Javion. We're trying to bring him along at the nickel position. And I think it's a process, that we're involved in and trying to figure out. These are the tough decisions that you're trying to make. Is he somebody that can play more than 4 games at a high level for you and contribute where you don't redshirt him? Or is it he's going to get right to that threshold and maybe a couple of special teams performances? So we're not going to do anything until he's ready, and he's not quite ready yet, but we really like his upside. And when he's ready, we're going to play him. If there's, obviously 4 games less in the season, we're in good shape. The question will be if it's, like right now, we don't want to put him out there until he's absolutely ready to play. Good. Thank you.
What'd you make of that Taviano bike?
I really don't know what to take from it.
Sounds like he's not ready to play.
It sounds like he's not ready to play, but then it's like he wants to play him, but then he doesn't want to play him because he feels like he's not ready to play.
I think that what he's trying to say is that they love him, and I think that Taviano is probably putting a little pressure on him to saying hey, I didn't come here to sit the bench, and it's like, we want you to play, and I just don't know if it's time just yet to play. I don't know. I think you see him this weekend. Mm-hmm. I think you see a lot of new faces this weekend. Thanks for tuning in to our premium LSU content right here on YouTube. If you want more of it, subscribe below.